Share the love and pride you felt in gifting the house as a gesture of support and belief in their future. Emphasize that it was given in good faith, symbolizing family unity and trust. When I first gave my son the house as a wedding gift, I wasn't thinking about contracts or conditions or any kind of strings attached. I was thinking about love. I was thinking about hope. Because when you give a gift like that, a home, a place to build memories, to raise children, to grow roots, it's more than just real estate. It's a symbol. It's a way of saying, I believe in you. I believe in your marriage. I believe in your future together. And I want to support you in the biggest way I can. You see, a house isn't just four walls and a roof. It's shelter from the storms. It's where holidays happen, where laughter echoes in the hallways, where you celebrate birthdays and anniversaries, where you cry and comfort each other when things aren't perfect. When I handed over the keys, I was handing over a foundation. Not just literally, but emotionally. It was my way of showing that I trusted my son and his partner enough to invest in their journey. I wanted to give them a stable place to build their life, a place where their dreams could take shape. And I did it with all my heart. I remember the conversations we had before the wedding, the excitement in their voices, the plans for decorating, for hosting family and friends, for making that house a home. That excitement was contagious. And so, for me, giving that house was never just a financial gift. It was a gesture of love, commitment, and faith. Because love isn't just words, it's actions. It's showing up, it's investing, it's supporting. And that's what I thought I was doing. But here's the thing about giving from the heart. It's deeply personal. It's not a transaction. When you give something so significant, you expect it to be appreciated, to be honored. Not because you want credit, but because you want your love to be recognized and respected. You want to know that what you gave meant something. You want to know that the foundation you laid will be honored. And I truly believed that's what was going to happen. I believed in the promise of a family growing stronger, in the idea that love and respect would guide their choices, that my role as a mother would remain important. I thought the house would be a symbol of all that we shared and hoped for, a testament to the bond between us. That's why it hurt so much when things changed. It's one thing to give a gift. It's another thing entirely when that gift is met with silence, with distance, or worse, with a wall being put up between you and your own child. The house was meant to be a bridge, not a barrier. And yet, somehow, it ended up becoming the very thing that separated us. When I gave that house, I wasn't thinking about the possibility that it could be taken away. I wasn't thinking about having to fight to keep a place in their lives or in their hearts. I wasn't thinking about how a gift, given with so much love, could be used as a weapon in the silence that followed. But that's the reality sometimes, isn't it? Love is complicated. Family is complicated. And sometimes the people we love the most can hurt us in ways we never imagined. And when that happens, when the people you gave everything to push you away, it makes you question everything. Makes you question yourself. It makes you question what it all meant. But here's the truth I want you to hear. Giving a gift like that, giving love that big, is never a mistake. Because love isn't about guarantees. It's not about keeping score or expecting a certain outcome. It's about opening your heart, taking a risk, and believing in something bigger than yourself. Even if it doesn't turn out the way you hoped. I gave my son that house because I wanted to be part of his life in the most meaningful way I could. Because I wanted to show up for him, to support his marriage, and to remind him that family is forever. That's what love looks like. It's messy, it's imperfect, but it's real. So yes, the house was a gift. But more than that, it was a promise. Promise that no matter what happened, I was there. That I believed in him. That I loved him. And even though things got complicated, even though I was told to stay out of his marriage, that promise, that love, didn't disappear. And that's the part that matters most. First, things felt natural. I was there, part of the excitement, the planning, the celebration. The boundaries between parent and adult child felt clear but comfortable. We shared ideas, stories, and hopes, and I thought I was supporting my son and his new spouse in the best way possible. I wasn't trying to interfere or control, just to be involved in the moments that mattered. I thought that was what family was for, to show up, to listen, to care. But somewhere along the way, those boundaries started to blur. The line between support and interference began to fade, and what had been open communication started feeling more like intrusion. I realized slowly that what I thought was involvement, my son was starting to feel as interference. It was subtle at first, little remarks here and there, a shift in tone, a tightening of the space between us. That's a hard place to be in, when you want to be there, but your presence is met with resistance. When the people you love start to pull away, and suddenly your love feels like overstepping. The challenge is that it's not always clear where that boundary lies, or when you've crossed it. You think you're helping, but they feel you're meddling. You think you're caring, but they see it as control. I found myself in that confusing, painful space, trying to figure out when to speak, when to hold back, and how to be present without being a burden. I thought I was doing what any parent would do, offering advice, sharing perspective, and standing by my child. But the truth was, the dynamics of marriage had changed things. My role wasn't what it used to be, and I hadn't fully realized how much distance had crept in until it was pointed out clearly. It was in those moments when I felt pushed away that I started to see just how fragile the balance was. How easy it was for love to become tension, for care to become conflict. I wasn't prepared for the way our relationship would shift as their marriage took on its own life. It was like watching two worlds collide, the family I knew and the new family they were building, and me stuck in the middle, unsure of my place. What complicates this even more is that family is never just about boundaries. It's about emotions, history, and expectations. When you've been a parent your whole life, it's hard to suddenly step back and let go. You want to protect, to guide, to nurture, especially when you see your child facing challenges. But marriage is a partnership between two people, and sometimes that means the couple has to carve out their own space, even if it means setting limits with a family. I had to learn that the hard way. I had to learn that respecting those boundaries means accepting that I wouldn't always be part of every conversation, every decision, every conflict. And that sometimes, loving from the sidelines is the only way forward. That kind of respect isn't easy. It's not just about staying quiet. It's about trusting. Trusting that my son and his spouse could find their own way, even if it wasn't the way I would choose. But the hardest part wasn't just about boundaries. It was about being told, in no uncertain terms, to stay out. Keep my distance. To stop offering advice or opinions. When that happened, everything shifted. The foundation I thought I was helping build felt like it was crumbling beneath me. It was a clear message. I was no longer welcome in the way I had been. And that stung. I think sometimes we forget how powerful words can be, especially coming from someone you love. Being told to stay out of their marriage felt like a door slammed shut. It wasn't just about the house or the gift anymore. It was about respect, trust, and belonging. And suddenly, I realized that my involvement, which I thought was love, was seen as intrusion. It made me question my role. It made me question the fine line between supporting and interfering. I had to look at myself honestly and ask, when does care become control? When does love become overstepping? Because if I didn't respect their space, I risked losing them completely. That moment was a wake-up call. It forced me to reconsider everything. I had to learn to listen differently, to observe without judgment, to be patient without pressure, and to accept that sometimes love means stepping back, even when it hurts. But stepping back doesn't mean giving up. It means redefining what support looks like. It means being there in ways that respect their autonomy and choices. It means trusting that they can handle their own struggles, and that my role is to be a steady presence when they're ready to let me in. Family dynamics are complicated, messy, and ever-changing. What worked yesterday may not work today. Relationships evolve, and sometimes that evolution involves painful distance. But if we can hold on to respect and understanding, even in that distance, there's hope for healing and reconnection down the road. I share this because I know I'm not alone. Many of you have felt that shift, the moment when your role changes and your presence is challenged. It's uncomfortable and it's painful, but it's also an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to love differently. Because at the end of the day, love isn't about control. It's about connection. And connection sometimes requires giving space, even when it feels like you're losing ground. It means honoring their marriage as its own entity, even if that means stepping out of the spotlight. So yes, the boundaries got blurred. And yes, that was hard. But it also showed me the importance of respect, patience, and humility. And that those qualities, more than anything else, are what sustain relationships in the long run. There's a moment I'll never forget. The moment everything changed. It wasn't dramatic, not in the way you'd expect. There was no shouting or yelling, no grand confrontation. It was just a few simple words, but they landed like a thunderclap in my chest. My son looked at me and said, "Mom, stay out of my marriage." I remember feeling my heart drop. Those words echoed louder than any argument ever could. It wasn't just what he said, but how he said it. Firm, resolute, like there was no room for negotiation. It was a boundary being drawn in the sand, a clear line that I was no longer allowed to cross. And in that moment I was stunned. Because up until then, I had believed I was doing what any loving parent would do. Offering support, sharing wisdom, being present. I thought I was standing by their side. But now I realized I was being pushed away. Hurt. Deeply. It's one thing to have differences with your adult child. It's another thing entirely to be told to stay out. As if your concern, your love, your very presence were unwanted. Felt like rejection. Like I was being shut out of a part of my son's life that mattered so much. I remember sitting there after he said it, trying to process what had just happened. I thought back to the house I gave him. The gift that was meant to be a foundation, a symbol of love and trust. And suddenly that gift felt heavy. Like it was tied to expectations I didn't realize I had. Or maybe that he didn't want. I kept asking myself, how did we get here? What went wrong? Because I hadn't walked into this expecting to be told to back off. I hadn't imagined that the people I love most would want me at arm's length. I thought family meant always being there, through thick and thin, good times and bad. But I was learning the hard way that sometimes family means respecting distance, even when it stings. That moment was a painful wake-up call. It forced me to look at my role in their marriage differently. I had to ask myself, was I really respecting their space? Or was my involvement crossing lines I didn't fully see? Because sometimes, love can look like overstepping without us even realizing it. I had to admit the idea of staying out wasn't just about avoiding conflict. It was about acknowledging their right to build their life on their own terms. To make decisions, mistakes, and successes without feeling watched or judged. It was about recognizing that their marriage was their business, not mine. But even as I understood that, the emotional part didn't get easier. Being told to stay out felt like losing a piece of my relationship with my son. It felt like being pushed to the sidelines, watching from a distance while life moved on without me. And that's when the real struggle began. Figuring out how to respect his wishes without shutting down my own heart. How to love from a place of distance without feeling disconnected. How to hold on without holding too tight. It's not easy to be told to stay out of something so important, especially when you gave everything you had to support it. But that moment taught me that love isn't always about being involved in every detail. Sometimes love means stepping back and trusting. Trusting that the people you care about can navigate their path, even if it's different from what you imagined. I also realized that words like stay out don't have to be walls forever. Sometimes they're boundaries meant to protect. Boundaries that say, we need space to grow. And respecting those boundaries can open the door to healthier relationships down the line. That's why, painful as it was, I didn't respond with anger or resentment. Instead, I listened. I reflected, gave space. And in that space, I found a new kind of love. One that wasn't about control, but about respect. One that accepted the reality of their marriage as separate from my hopes and fears. It also made me think about how often we confuse love with control. We say, I love you, but then try to shape someone's life according to our vision. We think that being close means being involved in every choice. But real love sometimes means letting go. Letting go of expectations, letting go of the need to fix, letting go of the fear that distance means loss. I want you to understand this. Being told to stay out of someone's marriage is not the end of love. It's a beginning. A chance to redefine what love looks like. To learn how to support without suffocating. To care without controlling. To love in a way that honors both your heart and theirs. That moment with my son was painful, yes, but it was also necessary. Forced me to grow. To evolve. To become the kind of parent who respects boundaries and practices patience. And in doing so, I found a deeper, more resilient love. One that could survive distance and disagreement. Because here's the truth. Love doesn't always look like we expect. It's not always easy or comfortable. Sometimes it's hard and messy and complicated. But if it's real, it's worth it. So, when he told me to stay out of his marriage, it wasn't the end of our story. It was the start of a new chapter. One where I learned that love is sometimes about stepping back, listening more, and trusting that family can survive even when the roles change. Respect. It's one of those words that sound simple, but when it comes to family, it can get complicated fast. Because respect isn't just about staying out of each other's business or keeping quiet when asked. It's something much deeper. It's a two-way street. And understanding that made all the difference for me. When my son told me to stay out of his marriage, I had to wrestle with what respect really meant. At first I thought, if I respect their boundaries, I'll stay away and be silent. But respecting boundaries isn't just about silence or distance. It's about mutual understanding and appreciation. It's about honoring not only their wishes but also recognizing that my voice, my experience, and my love still have a place in the relationship. It's easy to say, respect my space, but harder to realize that respect means both giving and receiving. You can't demand respect and shut others out at the same time. It's about listening and being heard. It's about valuing the relationship enough to find balance between closeness and independence. I started to understand that when you respect someone, you don't just back off and disappear. You find ways to stay connected that honor their needs but don't erase your own presence. Because family isn't about erasing each other. It's about growing together, even when the path isn't straight or easy. I had to ask myself, am I truly respecting their marriage? Am I respecting my son's role as a husband? And am I also respecting my own need to love and support him in a way that feels authentic? It was a delicate dance, one that required humility and patience. Respect is about boundaries, yes, but it's also about communication. It's about expressing care without judgment, offering advice without pressure, and stepping in when asked, not when you think you should. It's about trust, trusting that even if you're not involved in every detail, your love is still there, steady and strong. I also realized something else. Respect can't be forced. It can't be demanded or taken. It has to be earned and nurtured. And that means I had to show up differently. Not by pushing my opinions or expectations, but by showing empathy and understanding. By accepting their choices even when I didn't agree. By listening more and talking less. It's hard because when you love someone, your instinct is to protect them, to guide them, to fix things. But respect means accepting that they have their own journey, their own mistakes, and their own wisdom to gain. It means letting go of control and embracing uncertainty. One of the toughest lessons I learned was that respecting their marriage meant sometimes stepping back even when it hurt. It meant acknowledging that my son and his spouse were building something together that might not always include me in the way I wanted. That their priorities might shift, and that was okay. And in that space of respect, something surprising happened. Found freedom. Freedom from the need to be involved in everything. Freedom from anxiety over every decision. Freedom from the fear of being pushed out. When I stopped trying to control the narrative, I could be present in a more authentic, supportive way. Respect also means recognizing that love isn't a possession. It isn't something you own or control. Love is a gift you give freely, without expecting it to be returned in a particular way. And when love is given with respect, it creates space for growth. For all of us. It wasn't always easy. There were moments when I felt invisible. Moments when I wondered if I was losing my son. But the foundation of respect helped me hold on without gripping too tightly. It helped me be patient and hopeful. I want to be clear. Respecting boundaries doesn't mean stepping out of the relationship completely. It means being mindful of when to speak and when to listen. It means showing up with an open heart and an open mind, ready to support without judgment. It also means being willing to forgive. Forgive when things get messy, when feelings get hurt, when misunderstandings happen. Because respect isn't just a feeling, it's an action. It's a choice to treat the other person with kindness and dignity, even in difficult times. I learned that respect and love are inseparable. You can't truly love someone without respecting them. And when respect breaks down, love struggles to survive. So I made a commitment to cultivate respect in every interaction, to build bridges instead of walls. That commitment transformed how I related to my son and his marriage. Instead of seeing distance as rejection, I started to see it as a sign of growth. Instead of feeling hurt by boundaries, I began to appreciate the space they created for healing and understanding. Respect gave me the courage to stand firm in my love without demanding a particular response. It gave me the grace to accept that my son's marriage was his to live and lead. And it gave me hope that, even if I had to step back now, there could be a time when the doors would open again. Because respect is never one-sided. It's a conversation, a dance, a balance. And when it's present, it lays the groundwork for trust, connection, and true love to flourish. Taking back the house was one of the hardest decisions I ever made, but it was also one of the clearest. It wasn't about punishment or anger, even though those feelings were there. It wasn't about controlling my son or his marriage. It was about boundaries, about respect, fairness, and standing up for myself in a situation where I felt dismissed and excluded. When I first gave him the house, it was a gift given from the heart, a symbol of my support and love. But when I was told to stay out of their marriage, that gift suddenly took on a different meaning. It became a reminder of rejection rather than love. A symbol of distance rather than closeness. I had to ask myself, if I'm being told I don't belong, if my presence and voice aren't welcome, why should I continue to give so freely? Because gifts like that, big gifts, they come with an expectation not necessarily spelled out in words but understood in the heart. The expectation that the gesture will be honored, that the love behind it will be respected. It's not about money or ownership. It's about dignity. It's about standing firm in your worth and refusing to be pushed aside. And when your kindness is met with coldness or exclusion, it's okay to take a step back, to reclaim what you've given, and to protect your own heart. That decision wasn't easy. I wrestled with guilt, with second-guessing. Was I being too harsh? Was I making things worse? But at the end of the day, I had to choose self-respect over self-sacrifice. Because no matter how much you love someone, you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't give endlessly to people who don't want you in their lives on your terms. Taking back the house was a message. Not a threat, but a boundary. A way of saying, I'm here. Love you. But I won't be ignored or excluded. It was about reclaiming my voice, my place in the relationship, and reminding my son that family is about more than just blood. It's about respect and connection. I want you to understand this. Boundaries aren't about punishment. They're about protection. Protection of your emotional well-being, your sense of self, and your values. When someone closes the door on you, sometimes you have to close a door on them. Not forever, but long enough to be heard. It also made me realize that gifts, especially those given out of love, don't come with unconditional surrender. They come with hope. Hope that the relationship will grow stronger, that trust will deepen, that love will be reciprocated. And when that hope is met with rejection, it's okay to reevaluate. The house was never just a physical space. It was a symbol of my belief in my son and his marriage. When that belief was rejected, I had to ask myself if continuing to support from the sidelines was healthy for me. I had to decide what love looked like when respect was missing. Taking the house back was a way of reclaiming my power. Not in a controlling way, but in a way that said, I am not invisible. I am not disposable. It was a statement that love has boundaries and that those boundaries deserve to be honored. And here's the thing. Standing up for yourself doesn't mean you love less. It means you love wisely. It means recognizing when your love is being met with walls instead of bridges, and choosing to protect your heart while still holding love inside. That choice also opened a door to healing. When I set that boundary, it created space for reflection, both for me and for them. It showed that love isn't just about giving. It's about mutual respect. It's about recognizing that relationships require work from both sides, and that ignoring one side's feelings can't sustain a connection. I want you to hear this. Sometimes taking a step back is what allows a relationship to move forward. Sometimes you have to let go of what you gave to see if the people you gave it to really want to keep it with you in their lives. It was painful, yes, but it was also necessary. Because love without respect is hollow, and respect without love is cold. They have to go hand in hand. And when one is missing, it's okay to pause, to reevaluate, and to protect yourself. Taking back the house was not about cutting ties. It was about drawing a clear line. A line that said, I love you, but I will not be disrespected. I will not be silenced. It was about valuing myself enough to say no to being pushed aside. And that's a lesson I hope everyone hears. Your love is valuable. Your presence matters. And when you're told to stay out, you have the right to stand up and say, I'm here. I deserve respect. Healing doesn't happen overnight. It's not a light switch you can flip or a magic wand you wave. It's a journey, sometimes slow, sometimes messy, but always possible. After all the pain, all the distance, and all the boundaries set and reset, what matters most is how we find our way back to each other, or even just to ourselves. When my son told me to stay out of his marriage, and when I took back the house, it felt like an ending. But it wasn't really. It was a beginning of a new chapter, one that required patience, reflection, and the willingness to heal wounds that were raw and deep. Healing starts with acceptance. Accepting the reality of the situation without sugarcoating or denial. It means recognizing that sometimes the people we love will push us away, even if we don't understand why. It means allowing ourselves to feel the hurt fully without shutting down or pretending it's not there. For me, accepting that my son and his spouse needed space was the first step toward healing. It wasn't easy to let go of the role I thought I was supposed to play. But when I stopped fighting for a particular outcome and started embracing the uncertainty, I found peace. Healing also means forgiving. Forgiving not just the people who hurt us, but forgiving ourselves for the mistakes we think we made. I had to forgive myself for wanting to be involved, for offering advice that wasn't always welcome, for expecting things to be different. Forgiveness was a gift I gave myself, a way to release the weight of resentment and move forward. It's important to remember that healing doesn't erase pain. It doesn't mean forgetting or pretending everything is perfect. Healing means making peace with the pain, learning from it, and choosing hope even when things seem broken. One of the most powerful parts of healing is rebuilding trust. Trust in ourselves, trust in others, and trust in the process. After conflict and rejection, trust feels fragile. But it can grow again, slowly and carefully, with honesty, respect, and time. I learned to rebuild trust by showing up differently. Not by insisting on being right or having control, but by being present in ways that respected my son's boundaries and honored my love. It was about small gestures, genuine conversations, and quiet moments of understanding. Healing also invites us to redefine relationships. Sometimes the relationships we want aren't the ones we get. Sometimes love looks different than we imagined. And that's okay. Redefining relationships means embracing new roles, new boundaries, and new ways of connecting that work for everyone involved. For example, maybe the role of a parent changes from being a daily advisor to a steady supporter from a distance. Maybe the role of a child changes from being someone who seeks advice to someone who simply listens. These shifts aren't losses, they're growth. Healing taught me to be patient. Patient with others and patient with myself. Because the wounds that run deep don't heal quickly. They need time to breathe, to soften, and to transform. And that time is not a waste. It's a necessary part of the journey. It's also important to hold on to hope. Hope that love can survive distance. Hope that respect can be restored. Hope that connections can be mended. Hope that the future holds new possibilities for understanding and closeness. Sometimes, healing means waiting without knowing when or if the relationship will fully return to what it was. Sometimes it means being okay with the relationship evolving into something new and different. But whatever form it takes, healing means opening your heart to love again, on new terms. I also learned that healing requires courage. Courage to face the pain honestly. Courage to speak your truth with kindness. Courage to set boundaries while still offering love. Courage to accept uncertainty and keep moving forward anyway. And healing is not a solo journey. It often needs support, from friends, from other family members, or from professionals. Asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. Sometimes having someone to listen or guide us can make all the difference. In the end, healing brought me back to a place of love that wasn't desperate or demanding but was steady and unconditional. It brought me back to my son, not exactly as before, but in a new way that honored both of us. It brought me back to myself, stronger and more whole. So, if you find yourself in a place where love feels complicated or strained, remember this. Healing is possible. It may take time. It may require hard choices. It may mean letting go of old expectations. But it also brings freedom, peace, and the chance to love in a way that lasts. Because family, real family, is never about perfect moments or perfect relationships. It's about the messy, beautiful work of healing, growing, and coming back to love again.